live from Kentucky and Louisiana. 2 Marines, 1 mission. This is Sense and Senseless.
God. Oh, well. All right. So that took a little bit to get through, but going to go into something a little different. So over the next course of the next few weeks, we're going to discuss the evil in the world. And tonight, I want to go back and look at some historical recordings of sacrifice. I got a disclaimer here. I want everyone to understand I'm not some expert on anything, especially spiritual shit or sacrifice, nor am I an expert in the Bible. You know, I'm just going out looking for stuff and just seeing what kind of information I can find to try to understand some of this stuff. And I'm starting to get a little understanding of it. And I just want to be clear that what I'm going to talk about tonight is based off of my findings. You know, it's just generalized for a simple discussion. There's so many stories out there. You can probably find something that might contradict something I'm going to say tonight. I'm just giving y'all a little caveat that there might be some little details on be off. I'm just generalization of what I've seen. All right. So now we got through all that dumb shit. First off, let's see what's going around social media. This first cut I'm going to play from you is from Oprah Winfrey in 1989. Let's check this out. Oprah.
The devil participated in human sacrifice rituals and cannibalism. You come from generations of ritualistic abuse?
Yes, my family has an extensive family tree. It's gone back to like 1700.
Does everyone else think it's a nice Jewish family? From the outside, you appear to be a nice Jewish girl?
Definitely.
And you all are worshiping the devil inside the home?
Right. There's other Jewish families across the country. It's not just my own family. There would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to, you know...
Who's babies?
There were people who bred babies in their family. No one would know about it. A lot of people were overweight, so you couldn't tell if they were pregnant or not. When I was very young, I was forced to participate in that, in which I had to sacrifice an infant.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
Power. And so, were you ever used? Were you ever used yourself?
I was molested. I was raped several times.
And what's your mother doing?
She's lives in the Chicago metropolitan area. She's on the Human Relations Commission of the town that she lives in, and she's an upstanding citizen. Nobody would suspect her.
Okay. So, sorry. I'm just going to show you a few cuts so we can understand that there are some cultish, satanic stuff that it does happen around the world still today. I know that was from the 80s, and I'm going to show you another one of a kid talking about sacrifice here in a second. But why do we have this evil? You know, where does this come from? And that's where we're going to try to get in the next few weeks. Do you have anything to say about that one before we go to the next one, Jason?
No.
Okay, so this next one is a kid talking about sacrifice. This kid is in multiple videos, and again, is this a complete? I don't have the full story of this, but I've seen this kid in a lot of videos. And is this accurate? Is this, you know, this kid not lying? I don't know. I don't think this kid's lying because the details that this kid has and the way this kid talks. If this kid was lying, it's got a lot of information from somebody else to feed this lie is all I'm saying. Watch, check this shit out.
If they got a baby, but they can't look after it or anything like that, so if they get a baby, they want a baby.
Who do they give the baby to? Do they sell the baby or just give them?
They don't just give them, they sell it because they can't really, they sometimes give, but they don't like just give it like borrow, like for like a rent. They give it away because sometimes families are poor. So like in Tanja, there are people who had children and they were really poor. They couldn't afford food for them. So if the family's doesn't have money and they get a baby, they sometimes sell it. They eat it, do sex.
How do they eat the baby? Alive? Is the baby alive?
No, they inject it to make it go to sleep. And then after, Papa tells us to hold the knife, and then he puts his big hand on. He pushes it into the neck, cuts it, and after, when it's upside down, so it's like he goes like
So
that.
how do the babies become upside down?
So you get a string, hang it up, and it's upside down when it's asleep. Well,
Hang the baby upside down after they inject it.
yes. Miss Marden, the nurse, she
Marden,
injects.
who is Miss Marden?
Miss Marden is a nurse of our school. She does the injecting. She pretends to be kind to my mom and tries to like say be kind. And then after she injects. She's a nurse, so she pretends to be kind to mom. And so if I hurt myself, she pretends to be like really kind to us and like look after us and give us eye taps.
She's a member of this cult?
Yes, she's a.
And what do they all have? You say they all have a special something that they wear and stuff?
Yes, they wear this special kind of shoes. They make her.
What shoes? What special kind of shoes?
Baby skin shoes. Daniel, Felix, and Max.
Who are Daniel, Felix and Max?
They work at a shoe shop. Daniel and
shoemaker.
Felix, yes.
What shoe shops do they work at?
Daniel and Felix, they work in the next to the O2 Centre one in this tube station.
Where?
Just inside the tube station.
In the tube station where? What tube station, Daniel?
O2 Centre one.
O2 Centre where?
So in the corner.
Tube station.
I think it's the next waitress. I didn't. Hampstead. Finchley Road station.
What, the tube station?
Yes, yes. So when you come in, there's this shop
That's okay,
there,
you don't
and
have
a
to
shoe
describe
shop.
it. Just tell me what they do, these fellows.
And those fellows, they take off the skin. I don't know how.
The skin of whom?
Of the baby. The baby.
And they make shoes.
Yes.
And who wears these shoes?
Papa, everyone wears the shoes.
Everyone in the cult.
Yes.
Now, first of all, that's disgusting, and I'm not cracking on this, but I wish that dude would stop just let the girl talk. Shit, she was giving a good story. I mean, not a good story. It was disgusting, but he started like taking my mind off what she was saying because it's like, dude, shut the hell up and let her talk.
She has a little brother named Gabriel that's in some of the videos, and
Yeah.
she has some other videos that have a lot more detail.
Like
and it's
vivid
hard to
details.
believe that little girl's lying. I mean, the amount of information she has, she does
Nope.
not even skip
Nope.
a
No, no, dude, I'm not perfect, but I'm real good at detecting lies and bullshit. I don't know. I got a good discernment gift, but yeah, that she's legit. Just watching that, you can tell she's legit.
Yeah, and like
It rolls too smooth. She's not, and you know what I'm saying? It's just rolling like she's.
And when she
playing
doesn't know
memories.
something, like when she doesn't know exactly where that place is, you can see her start to think, where is it? Everything else she knows.
Yes, yep.
But
No, that's clean.
she does a what you call that whenever your cop brings you in and you
Interrogation.
almost like an interrogation. She's sitting in this office, and I don't know who's doing it with her and asking her questions, and it's pretty long. And
Right.
she goes through some disgusting shit. I mean, even to the point to where she talks about how she wasn't strong enough to put the knife through the bone, so her dad would help, sever the head. Dude, I'm talking about some twisted shit.
Right.
And there's actually some young ones from the United States that state a lot of the same stuff. And that's what I was kind of saying earlier. And this is going to be a little bit of a theme of the people wearing the stag heads. You see how calmly she talked about that? She wasn't wigged out or anything. She was more excited to be able to tell someone because that's normal to her. So if you see somebody with a stag head all the time, that's normal to you. You don't see nothing wrong. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
It might be a small group of people, and this next guy's going to actually explain about how smaller group this probably is. But it might be a small group of people, but to them, that's normal. We're the
Right.
weird ones.
Yeah.
Because they grew up in this shit.
Is everybody not doing this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Who the fuck's not doing it? Who the fuck's not, taking babies' heads off and wearing their skin as shoes? Who's not?
Yeah.
Man.
Jeez.
Yeah, the nurse at the school, she puts them to sleep.
Yes.
Like,
She
what?
injects them, but she's really nice, though. It's really cool. But if
Like,
she gets the
wow.
shot out, you might want to run, but she's cool.
This next guy we're going to hear from, his name is Theodore Gunderson. He worked for the FBI. He was the agent and author. Some of the cases that he worked on was the death of Marilyn Monroe and assassination of John F. Kennedy. Later in life, he researched a number of topics, notably including the satanic ritual abuse. So I have a video of Ted Gunderson. Let's listen to what this guy got to say.
Satanic cults.
Well, many of these people are multi-generational, meaning they were born into it. And once they're born into it, they have secret meetings, of course, and they worship Satan. They have human sacrifices, and they even sacrifice their own sometimes. They have what they call breeders. These are women who are especially impregnated so they can use the children or the fetus that are born for their human sacrifices. And based on my research, there's about 4 million plus practicing Satanists in America today. About 1.5% of the population. I derived that figure from a confidential source in South Bay area of Los Angeles, where there's about 200,000 people, and I was told by an informant that there's about 3,000 in that area. Lincoln, Nebraska, about 200,000. I was told about 3,000 there by second source. Third source, Iowa City, Iowa, 100,000 population. I was told there's about 1,500 there. So if you project that figure, you're looking at 1.5% of the population of the United States. And they are involved in, according to another 3 different sources also, there's 50 to 60,000 human sacrifices per year in this country.
Okay, but the question that people will tell you is, where do these human beings come from? Because obviously, you know,
well,
they have to be accounted.
First of all, they've infiltrated law enforcement. They've infiltrated prosecutors' offices. They've infiltrated the judicial system. They've infiltrated across the board basic elements. They've infiltrated virtually every level of our society. So what happens is, first of all, they have their secret meetings. They oftentimes they're in underground. They have underground compartments in their home, chambers in their home, and it's all private. Nobody knows about it. And and then they dispose of the bodies through different means. They're experts at covering up their tracks. I've heard of them even putting them in vats with acid in them.
So now, when we hear about like thousands of missing children going missing in this country every year, where do they go?
First of all, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is an adjunct of the U.S. Department of Justice, and if you go to their website, the last time I checked it, they said there are 91 Americans disappear every hour in this country. It is estimated 85–90% are children. If you project that figure, talking about several 100,000 children a year disappear in America. And these children are being kidnapped off the streets, and I have documentation that an organization known as the Finders out of Washington, D.C., has, since the early 1960s, been actively involved in kidnapping children off the street. Okay. Now, unfortunately, as a result of some of my research, I learned through a U.S. Customs Treasury Department report that the Finders is a CIA covert operation.
So why do they want these kids? What do they do?
The kids are auctioned off. I talked to one of my sources, told me he's attended 6 auctions where kids were being auctioned off. He was part of the network, and there were as few as 6 and as many as 36 children that were auctioned off. They were each auctioned off for up to $50,000 each. The children are ages 2 to 21, boys and girls. They put a label, a number around their neck, tie a string around their neck and put a card with a number on it. They bid, they put them up on a stage, they bid on the number. The kids come out, they put them in an airplane. There's one base a small field about 50 miles out of Las Vegas, Nevada, which is where some of the auctions are taking place. Put them on an airplane, kids leave, they disappear. And the kids are all doped up, of course. They put them in campers. The kids are, once they're in the camper, they dope them up, they're sleeping. The police stop them, they say, my kid's asleep, leave them alone, and all that sort of thing. And they use these kids for sex slaves, they use them for body parts, and they use them for their sacrifices.
So, this ain't gonna get any better tonight. I mean, this is where we're at. We want to talk about evil. I mean, this is what we have.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing, you know, that this type of shit goes on, but it goes on. And if we don't wake up and start seeing this for what it is, it's going to control all of us eventually. And the reason why I say that is because little by little, they make you they make shit normalized, and I'm going to explain that a little more later. And just keep that in mind, because over time you just get numb, and shit gets out of whack, and then shit like this starts happening more and more and more. And I'm going to look into the finders, so we're going to have some information on the finders also. So let's go to how do we get here. We're going to go back to what's called the Canaanites. And this was, I don't know, 5,000 years ago. The Canaanites, they were not like a single tribe or anything. They were multiple related groups, like working together in the Mediterranean region. This is what now we'd call like Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Western Jordan, and parts of Syria. This was happening around the Bronze Age, around 2000 BC and earlier. They were like city states. You know, they lived close to each other. They shared similar languages, similar gods, and a similar way of life. But they did not have one king or one government. So they were formed by local farmers and herders and new groups. They would come in slowly, and they would just keep creating these city states and these this I don't know what you'd call it. It's just a culture. And then as the cities grew, people traded more. They built walls and temples, and they shared customs. And that shared way of living became the Canaanite culture. It was not formed for one founder, but for many people living together over centuries. And there's many differences. So there's modern science version of where the people come from, and you know how many of them are still have the Canaanite blood. And right now they're saying like the Lebanese, the Palestinians, the Jews, the Jordanians, and the Syrians, 50% or more of them still carry the DNA of the Canaanites from 2000 BC. So that'd be what? Over 4,000 years ago. So the biology speaking, the Canaanites never left. All right. Now this differs from the Bible. In the theological story or theology, in that story, not the scientific one, the Canaanites came from the grandson of Noah. His name was Cain. He got what you call it, kicked out or whatever. He somehow got cursed. And what I was reading, it's a couple different things, but Cain walked in on his dad or his grandfather. I don't remember if it was his dad or if it was Noah. Anyway, one of them, they were drunk in their tent and they were naked, and something inappropriate happened while he was drunk in his tent. And therefore he got dispelled from the group. And then he comes up and he has the Canaanites. And they believe that because of him being morally corrupt by what he did to his father or his grandfather, I don't remember which one it was, is part of the reason why the Canaanites became the way that they were.
Right.
All right. So just to give y'all a couple of different ways. The Canaanite religion had multiple gods. It was more than 5. Well, it was actually false. There was idols, false idols. But the 3 we're going to talk about are Asherah, Baal, or Baal, however you want to say it, and Moloch. All right. So people believed that the gods controlled the rain, the crops, the fertility, the safety, and the survival. So their worship was transactional. And their life depended on keeping these gods or these idols satisfied. They believed that they gave the gods what the gods wanted, that the gods would take care of them. And the offerings were meant to earn, like rain and dry seasons, have their kids healthy and protection from enemies and stability in their society. But they wasn't guaranteed, anything. But I guess you would say like any god you would pray to, you're not really guaranteed anything. So it's basically the same thing. So who were these gods? So they got Baal or Baal or Baal. They said so many different ways. I'm going to go with Baal tonight. So we had Baal, especially Baal Hadad. He was the god of rain, storms, and fertility. He was extremely important in a farming society. You went pray to Baal when you wanted rain, and that gave you prosperity. Then you had Asherah. Asherah was the mother goddess. She was linked to fertility and childbirth and the the family well-being. She was often worshipped on side of Baal. You can think of Asherah as the life, family, and the nurturing goddess. And then there was Moloch. Moloch has multiple different things. Some people say he was a god. Some people say he was an idol. Some people say that he was more of the extreme version of Baal. And sometimes that's how Baal and Moloch are actually put together. But Moloch was associated with extreme sacrifice. Moloch was part of the sacrifice when you would actually start sacrificing your own children, for what you needed. So the Bible strongly opposes these idols because these gods represent false worship. Their practices were seen as morally corrupt and dangerous, especially practices involving exploitation or extreme sacrifice. This is why the Bible is so hostile towards the Canaanite religion. It's not just about different gods, but different values. In summary, the Canaanites were ancient peoples of the Levant who shared a culture and religion centered on survival and fertility, worshiping gods like Baal and Asherah. And while the Bible portrays them as cursed and separate, modern science shows many people today are actually descended from them. All right, so let's get to know a little bit about these gods. All right, so Baal, which they originally was praying for rain, and it was bringing them crops. As time went on, he was closely associated with pleasure and wealth. I guess we'll give him the credit. He basically brought prostitution. He made prostitution famous. And they would actually take acts of prostitution, and what they would say is they would assume Baal and Asherah were having sex, and then they would have an orgy to replicate what Baal and Asherah were doing. That was part of some of the rituals that they would have under Baal. The Hebrew Bible strongly condemned Baal worship, describing it as immoral, sensual, and corrupt. It uses sexual metaphors like prostitution to describe Israel's unfaithfulness to Yahweh. We didn't discuss Yahweh. Yahweh is the term name for God. This is before Jesus, but this is God that's supposed to be worshiped by all. And then instead of worshiping Yahweh, they're worshiping Baal, Asherah, and Moloch. Well, there's other ones also. I'm just focusing on these three. So I just don't want to get that lost. Are you following me so far?
Yeah.
Baal was also tied to wealth. If you had rain, you had good harvest. You had food security. And if you had food security back then, that was considered wealth. You also had healthy herds for trade and survival. And you had stability, which would give you political clout and put you higher in the social order. So Baal gave you sexuality and it gave you wealth. I mean, it's doing pretty good for sins.
Yeah.
And it gives you power. So, I mean, there's pretty damn good reasons why Baal was worshipped a lot.
Yeah.
And this is the reason that the Bible uses strong language like adultery, prostitution, and false gods who promise prosperity. It's all because of Baal. In a modern religious teaching, Baal is often used symbolically, not historically, to represent lust, greed, materialism, and pleasure without responsibility. In one sentence, Baal was worshipped because he promised life, rain, pleasure, and prosperity. But the Bible condemned his worship as appealing to the flesh and pulling people away from moral and spiritual faithfulness. Sexual acts were celebrated and orgies were part of the ceremonies. Therefore, Baal may be working in areas that are not realized. The pleasure of sin is deceptive. Your sin will find out. You can't hide from the truth. Is this why they have to keep sacrificing others? Is it to cover their own sin? Truth's starting to come out, so you can't hide from the truth. So do you have to make more sacrifices to hide that? I don't know.
Sacrifices were to atone for your sins.
Okay, so the more sins you have, the more
you
have
to sacrifice. Yes.
Okay, so that makes sense. That was one of the questions I was asking myself. So,
right. That's like in the Old Testament, that's how you atone for your sins, was by sacrificing, like offering up your best livestock, your different things, right? They had rules and what you had to do.
We're going to go into this normalization shit. Hold on a second. So we live in an age that promotes sexual lifestyles. I mean, can we agree on that?
Yeah.
All right. So right today, it is so easy to hook up. You don't even have to leave your house. All you need is a fucking app, literally a fucking app,
Yeah.
you know, and someone willing to drive over, and you can have sex. There's no real chase. There's no real passion. Just all lust. Just we'll call it a fucking go. All right. There's no
You don't
respect.
have to work for it. No. Yeah.
No. And there's no respect at all these
Right.
days.
No.
So with that said, almost seems as if Baal is more prevalent today than it was just a couple decades ago in our lifetime.
Right.
Right. When you start to accept things, even the smallest things that are out of the ordinary, then shit will slowly creep up on you until it's normal. All right. And everyone around you is, they all doing the same shit. This is how you normalize sin. And I started realizing that more and more as I read through this stuff this week. Think about it. It used to be taboo just to have tattoos. When I got my first tattoos when I was 18, 19 years old, it was a taboo thing. Now everyone has them. I mean, everybody has tattoos. Hell, there's people that black out whole portions of their body now. It just mind boggling to me. And we're talking about young people that's doing this shit. And when we were younger, we were more wild than our parents were. And I'm sure they were more wild than their parents were. And, and so on and so on. And these small acceptances lead to the acceptance of young ladies and guys selling themselves on the internet now. This is accepted career to some people. These OnlyFans and shit like that. They can go out and brag about, and don't get me wrong, if I could make $30,000 a month, by selling feet pics or whatever the hell they're selling, I'd probably do it too. But we accept it as a society as you go, girl. You know what I'm saying? You a strong bitch. When we were growing up, if you knew somebody that was a stripper, just a stripper, you were like, God damn, you just couldn't believe it. Now
you have no respect for yourself. Like,
now these girls just selling all their shit online, and some of them are doing it for $2 a month.
Some
Not
of them
all
are
of 'em.
struggling, and they keep doing it though.
And they keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we had talked about how music changed over the years and how when Two Live Crew and NWA came out and the record stores had a fit because of the language, but hell, we all wanted that shit, right? We were young, we wanted that. And that was a huge step from the Beatles and Marvin Gaye and the Beach Boys and shit like that.
Right.
They would just talk about straight fucking and killing and we loved that shit. But we took it to we accepted that. And that took it to the next level.
Right.
And why? Because we wanted to be cool. We didn't want to be square. We didn't want to be like our parents. We wanted to take it. We wanted to be the next level. So we thought we knew better. We were younger and we knew better. And we talked about this before. I remember my grandpa talking about how, when all this was coming out, it was the end of times, and thinking back, he wasn't exactly wrong. We were giving the devil a way to corrupt our young minds, and we just bought that shit. And is this why they wanted to normalize pedophilia? Okay. And I know I threw this at you, but I want you to think back to what I was just talking about, normalizing something. It was just a few years back, and I don't know if you knew this or if you heard this, but they were trying to get pedophilia mixed in with the LGBTQ. Or whatever it is, the alphabet community. They were trying to put the pedophiles in that and give them a symbol and give them a flag and then normalize it. Like that what it was called, minor affectionate people or minor loving people. It was some dumb shit like that they were going to call them.
Right.
Yeah. But is that why they were trying
that shit down?
Yeah. So eventually that you just start to accept it, they make it sound a little better. And is that what they were really trying to do? I mean, they got us with the music. They got us with movies. From what you see today on television versus what Little House on the Prairie was.
Right.
You know what I'm getting at? We a long way away, just in our lifetime.
Right.
Our generation, and I hate to keep blaming us, but that's what I know. We've had so many changes in our lifetime, and we just accepted it and just kept moving forward. We didn't question any of it. We just fucking like, you know what? Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
We
You know?
weren't phased by a whole lot of stuff until
No.
now.
I mean, what we used to have on Showtime now, like Bizarre and shit, what they would show on
Yeah.
Showtime, they show a little titty. Fuck, you can see that on cable television.
I know, dude. Like I was talking to them youth about like Facebook. Like you can see not hardcore porn, but pretty well naked stuff on Facebook. And that used to you had to dig for that stuff. You don't have to anymore. It's
No.
on Reddit. It's on all these. It's like you don't have to go to Pornhub.
No,
And all that stuff. Yeah.
No, Reddit's really bad.
Yeah.
I got on Reddit one day. I'm like, I was just asking a question, and then it brought me to Reddit, and I was scrolling on Reddit, and then you start seeing all the shit on that. I'm like, good Lord, they got some nasty shit on Reddit.
Yeah. Reddit's bad.
It's pretty bad. And the reason I'm trying to explain this is because we can't understand. And I couldn't originally, this is why I'm trying to explain it, because this is how I understood it. At first, I could not fathom how you can take your child and bring them to Baal or Moloch and burn your kid in a sacrifice for something. It didn't make sense to me. But think about the slow burn that might have been, generation by generation, things get a little easier. And you live in a small community back then. You don't have a phone. You don't have a post office. The people that you know is all you know. The information you have is from the people around you. If they're all doing this shit and you born into this shit, that's just what
normal.
you do.
It's normal. Yeah.
So it was hard I had to understand that, to like, why would they do that? So for me not to pass judgment on those people, because if you there and you're living in that time, you're doing it too. So if someone's saying, that they look back in the Bible and why they did this and this, look, I'm not even going to get into that. That's not part of this conversation. So I just wanted to get that out the way so everyone can understand. I just want to understand how we got this evil in our world. And we're going back to the Canaanites because that's the first place I seen the evil. All right. And then we got, Moloch. In the Bible, Moloch is associated with child sacrifice, but scholars debate what the word actually means. And some people say that Moloch actually means God. And then some people say that Moloch is just another version of Baal. Or Moloch's actually the name of the sacrifice of sacrificing children. So there's all different things on how they would have these sacrifices and what actually Moloch was. These sacrifices were usually offered to major fertility or state gods such as Baal Haman, the chief god of Carthage, and Canaanite, his consort. I forgot to tell everyone that the Baals, there were many of them. Each city-state had its own Baal that it worshipped. And certain ones had more power than others based off of what they'd done in their communities.
Right.
So if you're reading it, you might see like Baal Haman and Baal Hadad, and I think it was like a merit. There's a whole bunch of them. So it was kind of confusing at first when I first started looking at it. The general consensus is that they're all the same. It's just certain ones might have taken something a little more extreme than the other ones. That makes sense?
Right. Yeah.
So how Baal and Moloch became linked. So they were originally not the same, but several things caused them to blur together. Baal just means Lord. Every religion had its own Baal, like we just talked about. And this flexibility made Baal worship easy to adapt and combine with other practices. And then the core Baal beliefs were storms and rain, battles with chaos and death, because Baal worship was in cycles. So what they believed was he would go fight. Yam was like a naval person. I don't remember why he fought Yam, but he would go fight Yam and then he would beat Yam. And then Mot was part of the underworld. and he would go fight Mott. And during that time is the dry time, and he would lose to Mott, and it would stay dry. And he had a sister that would go help him and then kill Mott, and then Baal would come back, and then there would be rain. Okay. All his work, I have no, but that was the cycle. So
Right.
you would have a dry season, you'd have a rainy season. And
Right.
if it was still dry, it's because Baal was still fighting, or he was still held down by Mott. And then Baal's sister would have to go in and take care of Mott. That's just the short version of the story.
Right.
So Moloch was likely to just for the type of a sacrifice, not as a god. And
Right.
then Moloch could have been used with Baal.
Mhm.
So when you look at Baal, Baal was a bull. He had a bull head, and he had when they would have like a oven or something
Right.
in his belly, and you can burn your sacrifice there. And they didn't always just burn shit. And they would bring like grains and stuff, to worship and all. But if they were doing a child sacrifice, it would be in the iron of the belly of Baal. And that also got me thinking, there used to be a torture device that I read about as a medieval torture device. It was called the bull. And I don't know if this is part of that. I haven't gotten that far yet. But what they would do, and this is pretty sick, is they would take the person that they wanted to torture, and they would stick them in an iron bull, and they would light a fire under that bull,
Mhm.
and they would cook the person inside of that iron bull to torture them.
Mhm.
That's how they would put them to death. That had to be an
Yep.
awful death.
Yep.
The same thing with this guy with Baal. It's a bull. So I don't know if it's the exact. Hopefully, I can figure that out. I haven't gotten that far, but that might be related to each other. One other thing I want to mention about these sacrifices: when they sacrifice these kids, they actually beat these drums, and these drums are beat to drown out the sounds of the kids screaming while they're burning.
Right.
All right. So it's not something that is for the faint at heart, should I say?
Right.
Over time, Baal worship absorbed into many local practices. Biblical authors treated Baal and Moloch together because both represented idolatry and moral danger. This is why Baal became associated with the worst excesses of Canaanite religion.
Mhm.
Moloch was probably a ritual involving extreme sacrifice that became associated with Baal over time, especially in crisis situations. And the Bible treated the two together as symbols of the most dangerous forms of idolatry. This diversity explains why Baal could absorb various practices, while Moloch became infamous with the extremities. You understand all that so far?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to play this next cut. This is about Moloch child sacrifice. I know I'm giving a lot of information. A lot of stuff might not make sense. It should make sense by the time we wrap all this up. And it's it's dark. I understand that. I know it's dark, but this is the beginning of the evil that we're seeing in the world that I still believe is actually part of our evil today.
Mhm.
So check this out.
What does the Bible say about child sacrifice? The Bible constantly refers to a demon god named Moloch. People would bring their newborn baby and place their baby into the hands of Moloch. Did you know that even King Solomon built statues for Moloch? King Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and they convinced him to build pagan statues, and one of them was Moloch. You shall not give any of your children to offer them to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. That no man might make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Moloch. If you want to watch a more in-depth video about child sacrifice, go check this out on my YouTube channel, Will123Will.
So that's Moloch and the child sacrifice.
Mhm.
All right. And Moloch today, they say is represented as an owl. So here's a recap of Moloch today.
They worshipped a deity called Moloch or Moloch. It was a deity that was an aspect of Nimrod, who keeps coming up everywhere, of course. And what they used to do is sacrifice children to Moloch or Moloch. They put them through the fire. And in the Old Testament, you see prophets condemning the people for putting their children through the fire to Moloch or Moloch. When I've talked to contacts, therapists and what have you around the world who work with satanically abused people, what those people tell them is that, again, when they're sacrificing children, the deity in the modern world today that they use to sacrifice them to is Moloch or Moloch. Same seamless stream. So the question comes in relation to this: how do they symbolize Moloch or Moloch, this deity to which they sacrifice children? They do it, symbolize him as an owl.
All right. So what do you think about Moloch?
Like I say, I haven't read the Bible through from cover to cover. Don't get into the Old Testament a ton. Do some. I mean, we're reading 1st and 2nd Samuel in Sunday school and stuff like that. I mean, there's always been evil. Evil's been around for ever since good. So it's, well, like you said, I mean, if you only know what you know, and if that's what you were born into or whatever, how do you know that it's wrong until somebody shows you that it's wrong?
And if it works, then
right. But I mean, in my mind, like the seasons, and I believe that there's seasons, like the reason why the seasons work and all that stuff from a religious standpoint. But I mean, if I go out and sacrifice one of my dogs right now and then it starts raining, that's what caused the rain. No, it didn't. I mean, it didn't. It just happened to happen, right? Or if it doesn't happen, then they just say you didn't do it right. You see what I'm saying? There's always an excuse until it does, and then they get their point across. So,
have you ever had a superstition that you've done to have helped the Bears win a game?
I always thought, because I watched the game, it caused them to lose. I feel like if I would have not watched the game, maybe they would have won. It's like God punishing me for putting them as a priority. You know what I'm saying?
But you could, I guess what I'm getting at, something that simple, though, can make you start believing.
Yeah, it could. I've had that thought before. Like, man, I skipped church today just so I could make sure I got to watch the game, and now they're get their butts beat. I guarantee that's the reason why, because I skipped church. But I'm one out of like a million fans or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
but that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, it's easy to think that, maybe you shouldn't do that, but when you start thinking of just the superstitions that we might have today,
right?
Yes, the seasons, are the reason why they're getting it, but they didn't know,
right?
They didn't have that kind of information. But if they believed in this is what worked for them, and somebody showed them this worked, then it'd be hard not to believe in it.
Right.
So let's recap the god idols. So first we got Baal, the god of storm. He corrupted the economics of a nation. He replaced the covenant relationship with the commercial transaction and convinced an entire people that God was a vendor and not a father. Asherah was corrupted the identity of God. She was introduced quietly and domestically, generationally, until he had been reshaped into something more manageable, more willing to share his throne with. I forgot to mention earlier that Asherah ended up, I think it was Ahab or Arab, one of them, one of the kings. And I'll explain all that in a second on how she became more involved than she probably should have.
Right.
And Moloch, it corrupted humanity himself. He took the transactional of Baal, had normalized, and followed it to its end. And once a nation had burned his own children, there's nothing it will not do. There's no bottom left to reach. This is the lowest of the low. And here's a little video that I got put together. It's how entities feed. Check this out.
The ancients were sacrificing to the gods. These cultists today are doing it. So, here's the question. Why? When they said we're making a sacrifice to the gods, we're making an offering to the gods,
what do the gods get out of it? What do they get out of it now with these cultists doing it? And so at this cusp is this demonic force, which is described in all these ancient cultures and all these religions. And the frequencies we're generating are dictated by the emotions and the thoughts that we're having. So, fear, the currency of control of humanity, these demonic entities operating just outside of human reality, by the very nature of what they are, very distorted, very chaotic, mad. I mean, if you look at the names that the different ancient societies have given, religions have given to these demonic entities, often again and again, it will relate to the word foolish or stupid. They are idiots, right? But if you can completely hijack the perception of your target population, it doesn't matter if you're idiots, as long as you know how to do that, you got them. And what they do, these entities, therefore, is they resonate on a very low frequency because of their state of being, because their state of perception, everything. So they are feeding off human energy. That is their energy source. And if we had a world of love and joy, they'd go bloody hungry, because you can't absorb what you're not on the frequency of. The frequency they're on, because of their nature of who they are, relates to low vibrational human emotion and low vibrational human thought. So what they've done is create a simulation, a fake reality, to hijack perception of every bloody thing and to manipulate that reality in terms of war, of suffering, of all these things, so that we, en masse, generate vast amounts of low vibrational human emotion and low vibrational human thought, and they are feeding off it.
I think we're feeding them pretty good if that's all it takes to feed them.
Mm-hmm.
Got any comments on that before I move on?
No.
It's a little dark.
Speaks for itself.
All right, so we're going to go back to the Canaanites. And these Canaanites, I don't know if you know this, but they basically invented hell. And I'm going to explain how we got there. So God didn't like the way the Canaanites was pushing away Yahweh and was worshiping these false gods. And then they started having these sacrifices and everything. So God gave the Canaanites 400 years or 10 generations to correct their ways. The Canaanites didn't correct their ways. You know, they just did their own thing. They knew how they were going to live. So God decided he wanted all the Canaanites destroyed. When we was talking earlier about genocide, he wanted a genocide of all the Canaanites. He just wanted them all gone. So what he did is he sent the Israelites in. He sent the Israelites in to destroy all of them. Problem is they didn't get all of them. And the Canaanites actually ended up moving in basically with the Israelites. And one of them that moved in with them was Jezebel. Jezebel was the daughter of the king of Sidon. Now, I don't think that this was part of like this king's marrying his daughter to this other king. I think it's more of Jezebel working her way in with King Ahab of Israel. But anyway, she married the king of Israel, which was Ahab. Now, she promoted worship of Baal and Asherah. So now that they tried to get rid of all the Canaanites, not only do they have Canaanites in with Israel now, they have a Canaanite that's the queen of Israel who promotes Baal and Asherah. Now, she brought, there was like 450 Baal prophets and like 400 a share of profits into Israel. And within a generation, the northern kingdom of Israel was all under idol worship. Now, this went on, and they got further and further into this shit. And I think it was Ezekiel decides that he was going to put an end to this, and he's going to get rid of all the Canaanites. And the reason he's going to get rid of it, if I remember correctly, I don't have my notes right, is slowly but surely, as they worshiped Asherah, there was the Ark of a Covenant in the temple, and the Ark of the Covenant was always guarded by what was the high priest. And the high priest was the only one to ever go in there. And then they would actually wear, and I didn't notice, the high priest would die in there if they was not
100% pure.
100% pure. And they wore bells when they walked through there. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And as long as they heard the bells, they knew that the priest was still alive.
They had a rope tied to them too. If they stopped hearing the bells, they pulled them out by the rope.
Okay. I didn't know that portion.
Yep.
So what ended up happening is they ended up taking a sculpture of Asherah. Now, at this point in history, it was said that Asherah sculptures was in most people's homes, and they would pray to her, for birth and for their kids and shit like that. And it ended up in with the Ark of the Covenant. And God eventually leaves the temple because of this. And Ezekiel is supposed to rid Israel of all the Canaanites. And he does a pretty good job. And then I think he gets killed, and not in that, in another war. And they come back. You just can't get rid of this. And I think it's just as simple as it is today. Evil just will always live on if you don't have enough good to get rid of it. It's easy, just like when we were younger. It was easier for us to go towards the foul language and the hard music than to sit there and listen to boring ass Gene Autry. But boring ass Gene Autry music had more family relations. You can sit there and you can listen to that with your grandparents and all. You couldn't hear sitting there with your parents listening to "Pop that pussy, hey, pop that pussy."
Yeah, grandma
You know
wasn't
what I'm
jamming
saying?
out to that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, but you wanted to listen to that when you were a teenager, but you didn't want to listen to that with your grandparents, where their
No.
music is you could listen to it with everyone. And that's
Yeah.
how far we got. And it's kind of the same here. Ezekiel's vision is called Ezekiel 8, and it's called, in the book of Ezekiel, God shows prophet visions of corruption inside the temple itself. These include Canaanite religion wasn't fully eradicated in the conquest. It persisted through blending, secret worship, and popular appeal, even among leaders. Ezekiel 8 is a snapshot of that survival. The Canaanite gods were still active in Judah right before the fall, proving the biblical command for total removal wasn't fully realized. Instead of elimination, there was cultural religious fusion, which DNA today confirms through Levirate continuity. In short, Ezekiel 8 exposes idolatry. It's God saying, "Look how far my people have fallen into Canaanite ways." They sent the Israelites in to remove the Canaanites. They come in, their Canaanites are up there with them again. Hell, even a queen of Israel's now a Canaanite. They move a false idol in with the Ark of the Covenant. God leaves the temple because of this. Ezekiel is supposed to remove the Canaanites. And within a generation of that, the Canaanites are back with Israel. All right. So just in that little bit of time of just going back and forth, yes, it has to still be here today. It's like a cockroach. You just can't kill them. Here's the Epstein in Ezekiel 8.
I think it's pretty clear to the person who's paying attention that at the highest levels of politics, We have people who are doing these wicked, as it says in Ezekiel, abominations. Certain sins are abominations, and it includes idolatry, includes magic, but it also includes all the sexual and homicidal thing and abusive things that these people do. Why do people do these things? Well, if you talk to exorcists, some people voluntarily get possessed by the devil, and people voluntarily get involved to black magic and occult practices. Why do they do it? And there's one answer that they all have. They were seeking power. It's a satanic mentality. Satan said, I will not serve God, non serviam. He wanted to be God. And that satanic impulse comes into the minds and hearts of people where they want power. We don't want to get too much into the details, but in Hollywood and in politics, there are many stories of people who maybe start off with good intentions and they get into the crossroads here and they are asked to do things that are abominations. There are people who are gatekeepers in politics, social media, Hollywood, businesses, corporations, where in order to control other people, to secure their place in power, they need the people with them to also be compromised, to also be indulging in abominations. It's how they retain power. And Epstein was a very powerful man. People were trying all they could to get onto his island with his little blue and white temple with all the abominations there. Why? Because it was a magnet of power. People who sin and make mistakes and they go to confession, right? They are trying to conform imperfectly to the will of God. But wicked people, evil people, they don't just commit sins. They are trying to get other people on a massive scale to commit sins, and not just sins, but abominations. I hope if you're on the path to sanctity and you commit a sin, even a small venial sin, there is compunction. There is the moment of, I am wrong. I'm sorry, God. It's a mortal sin. You say, I have to go to confession. That's a different mentality than, say, the Epstein people who are actively planning the corruption of little people and famous people and politicians because they want to control the banks and the nations. They want to control it all. And in particular, throughout time, you see that the most evil people are using religion as a cloak. It's like what we saw with Solomon. It's like what we saw in the Old Testament with the Jews. Outwardly, they belong to this faith, but inwardly, as we read in the book of Ezekiel, if you look through the hole in the wall, you see them all in there offering incense to demons.
Yeah, and one of the issues that God had with them whenever they got rid of, when the Israelites got rid of thought they had got rid of all the Canaanites, and then they started worshiping in Israel. They actually worshiped Yahweh at that time, but they worshiped Yahweh during the day, and then they will worship Baal at night. And God didn't want that split. And they did a lot of sacrificing even back then. And I don't know if you knew where hell came from. I didn't know where hell came from. But it's called the Valley of Hinnom. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No,
I don't know
I
if you've
don't.
heard of this in religion. They call it Gehenna. Basically, from what I read, it's by Jerusalem, and it was always on fire, basically because of the kids that was, burning there. And Jesus is the one that said it was like hell, from what I read. And they've always said that the fire would not go out, and something about some worms and shit, and how bad it was. Today, they said it's a beautiful area, and it has all this other stuff. But back then, it was original hell. It's where hell come from. In the Bible itself, Gehenna is mentioned 12 times, and Jesus says it 11.
Right.
And it is basically just telling you how horrible this place was. I mean, it is the symbol of hell. It is the fiery gates of hell right there in Jerusalem. So the bottom line on the Valley of Hinnom, it became infamous because of idol worship and child sacrifice. The Bible teaches that these practices were deeply destructive. Israel was warned, but later adopted the same behaviors. Prophets like Ezekiel condemned this corruption. Jesus later used the valley's history as a symbol for the ultimate judgment. Gehenna became the lasting image of the cost of unrepentant sin. The Valley of Hinnom went from an ordinary place to a symbol of judgment because it became associated with idol worship and child sacrifice. And the Bible later used its history to warn about the consequences of moral and spiritual corruption. And that's what came through the Canaanites. So just think about that. When you think about evil in history, these are the people that invented hell. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
You might know a lot of bad people in this world, but before evil was even thought of, these people invented it. They
Right.
come up with what evil is supposed to be.
Right.
And I don't believe this ever ended. I don't. I believe this still goes on today. Throughout the weeks, we're going to slowly go through all this. And I'm not going to go through every damn 100 years and whatnot. You know, we're going to take some big jumps. I wanted to go back this far just to see where all this shit started, because in my mind, I know it started somewhere, but it couldn't have been that bad that soon in my mind. I figured, you know, there was something happened and, you know, it was a little bit here. I wasn't thinking that we were burning babies, you know, 4,000. I knew there was a lot of sacrifice, especially whenever you start looking at, they always want to talk about like the Aztecs and all these Indians and all these sacrifices. But these were Canaanites, which end up becoming the Middle East, would end up with Jerusalem, where Jesus was. And you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that religion is bad. What I'm getting at, it's everybody. Everybody has a touch of this in them. And that's the scary part. You got anything before I go on?
No, you're right.
Does this all make sense?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're born into it, and we all have the ability to be that way. I mean, it's a choice, and it's a fight, and it's a daily battle to be not evil and to give into that stuff. So,
yeah, I think we all fight our own demons every day.
Yep.
This is a video, Baal worship today. Let's check this one out.
Perhaps the most famous Baal in the Bible is in the book of Exodus. God delivered his people, they got together, and they created a golden calf. And they worshiped it. You would worship Baal if you wanted to succeed and be affluent and live a lavish lifestyle. Baal is typified as a bull. A calf is a baby bull. They were worshiping Baal. And see, what happens is we read the Bible and we think, those people are primitive. Thankfully, we've moved beyond that sort of primitive thinking. Thankfully, we don't worship a Baal or bull. Yes, we do. This is right next to the New York Stock Exchange. If we were Hebrews from the Old Testament, we would say, well, there's Baal, the golden bull, and we worship him because we want a bull or Baal market. A bull or Baal market is a thriving market. What I'm telling you is this: we're dealing with new days but old demons. I've said this for a long time. If the people change and things don't, that means that the spirit working through them is the same.
You think that's the same idol?
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense, don't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Bible tells you that money is the root of all evil.
And did you see the picture in there? It showed the 47th something of Iranians were burning the Baal.
Yeah.
I got a video on that. Let's check this one out.
So is Fox News or the American government going to cover these Iranian protesters who are expressing their outrage over the Epstein case and how children are possibly sacrificed for Baal, the statue that they're burning and protesting against? While below is the American ruling elite and the globalist class worshiping Moloch and Baal. And like I mentioned before, these are idols associated with child sacrifices. On the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution of Iran, they're making statues of Baal and burning it down. I mean, in comparison to the States, on July 4th and Independence Day, we're having hot dogs and using fireworks. But even the biggest American will have to admit this is way more base. These Iranian government-sponsored protest regime, these Iranian regime-sponsored protests are symbolic. It's a symbolic revolt against the ruling class and the global elite. who use symbols, imagery, blackmail, and sacrifices as a part of their spiritual practices for global domination. And if you're wondering why won't they leave Iran alone? Why is Iran always targeted? Why is it public enemy number one? Because Iran is one of the only countries fighting and resisting global Satanism, or as we refer to, the matrix, the system, and Iran is doing so symbolically and spiritually. So I want to ask, do you think Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Israel is going to start holding similar protests where they're burning down statues of Baal? Or when is the America First movement? Candace is always going on about how this is a spiritual struggle and there's demonic forces. Tucker uses the same language. So when is the America First? When are the Christians and the conservatives of America going to hold similar protests where they express their outrage at how the globalist class, the ruling elite, the top 1% of America, worship idols and use sacrifices and blackmail to dominate them and to control the rest of the world?
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad to say, and I'm going to draw a line to the two, but I'm not saying that all are the same. When it comes from the Israelites, where it starts at, right? And there's a lot of Jews and Middle Eastern people that's involved in this stuff.
Right.
And if you just look at how it moved from the Canaanites to the Israelites, you can't make me believe that this shit didn't move as these people moved out, because the Jews were pushed out of Israel. So as they moved out, that this stuff didn't go everywhere.
Right.
You just can't make me believe that it didn't.
Right.
You know, and for him to say that, you know, this is what he's seeing and this is why they're protesting the elites. I'm not going to say as a Catholic that I would not go out. I mean, if they had a protest about the elites, I would join that, especially knowing what I'm starting to learn now.
Right.
About this stuff, you know, and that's what he probably doesn't understand is we don't know this, you know, and there's going to be people that see this, that look at this and say that I'm a fucking idiot. And I've made sure that, you know, I've checked and double checked a lot of the stuff and I just generalized this. But yes, this is the root of evil. And when people talk about the root of all evil, this is where we're at.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure there's history beyond that you can find,
right.
You know, that's fucking carved in a brick somewhere.
Right.
But this is what I had.
No, it's good stuff. I mean, you got to dig further. You got to encompass everything and kind of start connecting the dots and the puzzle pieces and all that. You just can't it's like what we talk about with the Bible. You can't just read a verse. You got to read before it and after it and study around it. You know what I'm saying? You can't just read something and be like, it's what it says. Jesus wept, shortest verse in the Bible. He was a wussy. Yeah, it says it right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to read before and after it and get the context of it, right? So
I agree with you. All right. So this next video is about the cost of fame. Now, I don't know this guy. And again, I throw my tinfoil hat on because I don't know if what he's saying is completely true.
Right.
But what I can tell you is that what he's saying is very plausible. And that's why we're going to listen to it. Let's check this out.
Charlie Kirk is killed publicly in a very horrific way. And we're not really even allowed to look into that at all. And Charlie Kirk was one of President Trump's closest advisors. And he also advocated heavily against a war with Iran. He was in the Oval Office in the lead up to the 12-day war. I wasn't particularly close with Charlie. He was very gracious to me when I was running for Congress, very, very supportive. So we knew each other. And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing, in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and you've been in the West Wing, it's small, it's a tight space. And he said, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. Very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off, and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, And then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that. It's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
What do you mean when you say we're not allowed to ask any questions about that?
We've been told that this individual, Robinson, is a lone gunman, and maybe he is. But the investigation that I was a part of, the National Counterterrorism Center was a part of, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. And the FBI will say that they stopped that because they wanted to turn everything over to the Utah state authorities. Everything's going to trial. It's very, very sensitive. But there was still a lot for us to look into that I can't really get into. But there was still linkage for us to investigate that we needed to run down. And I'm not making any conclusions. I'm not saying
no, I don't think you are.
Because of this happened. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's unanswered questions. We know the pressure because of the text messages that have been made public that Charlie was under a lot of pressure from a lot of pro-Israel donors. And again, we know Charlie was advocating to President Trump against this war with Iran. And we knew at the end of the 12-day war, at the end of Midnight Hammer, that the Israelis were going to come back and ask us to go back to war again.
Right.
So we have a lot of data points between Butler, the assassination attempts against President Trump, the breaches of his security, what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Can I just ask you to pause on the Charlie Kirk because it upsets me to hear what you're saying, to be reminded that he was murdered, but also to hear you confirm what was reported in the media several months ago, that your office had been blocked from investigating his murder. That does not make sense to me.
We don't question nothing.
Nothing to see here.
Yes.
Do you believe him? Do you think it's plausible what he's saying?
I didn't need him to say shit. You watched the breakdown of that, Brian, the first week. I mean, you could say, this ain't right. Something ain't right here.
Yeah, I agree with you. But they covering something up, you think, huh?
They are.
Here's the lady I started following. She got some good shit. I mean, a lot of good videos. She does a lot of good, I think the next two videos are actually from her. But this one is where our tax dollars used to kill Charlie Kirk.
Were our tax dollars used to assassinate Charlie Kirk? Hold on. I was sent this by a few people. Charlie Kirk was killed with a miniature explosive, likely made at Accurate Energetic Systems in Tennessee and purchased by the DoD for $425K in May of 2025. You can bet Steve Feinberg was involved in the planning of his public assassination. Well, I pulled all of Accurate Energy Systems contracts from usaspending.gov, and I found this one. This one, the address is in Tennessee. It is for miniature XS demolition devices, anti-personnel, SPM. That's what caught my attention. We're going to come back to that. The amount is $440,494. The procurement period, May of 2025 to August of 2025. So I went and looked up all other procurements because as somebody who has done DoD procurements before, that was a really odd amount of time. None of Accurate Energy Systems procurements were less than a year, except for this one, because that's not how they procure things. I went and did more digging. The contract was signed on April 22nd, 2025. A lot of weird things about this procurement. It was a simplified acquisition process, meaning did it quickly, and it was one bidder. They did not put it under any of the IDVs, which are the vehicles that they have for all the other hundreds of tens of millions of dollars that AES had with them. It gets worse. These devices are made for special operations forces, and the XS anti-personnel are tiny ones to kill people. They're put on people. If you want to get darker, Steve Feinberg, our deputy SecDev, well, his old company, Cerebus, owns the company, I forget the name of it, that trains the special operations forces on these detonation devices. He's the one who put protecting the blue and white country in his priorities as the same as protecting America. So you have a procurement that was signed April 22nd and started May 1st, ended August, for tiny devices to kill people. Forgot to mention that the plant that the address is at, well, it exploded a month after Charlie Kirk's assassination, and everyone in that plant died. No survivors. Correlation doesn't mean causality. I'm a big, big advocate of that. However, something doesn't smell right at all. So if someone knows more or can help me correct some of this or figure out what's going on, let me know, because it doesn't fucking look good.
Don't pass the smell test.
Mm-mm.
We've been saying that, huh?
Smells stinky.
Now, tell me that. I've seen multiple things now that talks about the exploded microphone theory.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a plausible theory also.
It is. Yeah. It wasn't no 30-06. We're just going to stop that saying. It wasn't. I mean, come on, people.
Okay, so if Joe Kent was saying that the FBI and all wasn't going to investigate Charlie Kirk, there has to be a reason why. Well, here's the same lady. She got she's going after Cash. It's called who is the real Cash? Check this one out.
In honor of Joe Kent resigning as the director of National Counterterrorism Center, and on his way out saying that he went to look and investigate into Charlie Kirk's assassination and the foreign influence involvement in that, and then Kash Patel shut that shit down, I was like, oh, just said the quiet part out loud, pumpkin. Also dismantled the counterintelligence unit just a few days before we attacked Iran that handled Iranian assets. Those relationships take years and decades to form, and he dismantled it down to, I think, like 2 people. Why would you do that, Kash? Why would you do that? So for this, I want to paint the picture of just who our FBI director is and how he got to where he is and the weird things that I found. I spent my career at the CIA and NSA and also advised other intelligence agencies. I now have my own corporate intelligence firm. All of these opinions are my own. This analysis is my own for entertainment purposes only. You can find my deep dive investigation, sources, proof, everything on my Substack. I can only do so much in 3 to 5 minutes. I'm also launching my podcast there this month. Kash Patel was a public defender in Florida, and how he got his rise to fame was he worked on an intel committee down there as a public defender, and when the Trump-Russia investigations were going on, he wrote a letter saying how great Trump was. He was so innocent. MAGA, Trump, they all loved it so much. Trump then gave him a position on the National Security Council, and then he became chief of staff at the Pentagon. January 6th happens. Kash Patel was going back and forth on text with Pentagon and everyone that was involved. And then his phone was wiped clean. So when Congress went to get the records, all the texts were gone. And Pentagon says, that's standard protocol, bro. I will tell you, it is not necessarily standard protocol. Kash Patel then is like, oh, I've got to start my side hustles. And he sells anti-COVID vaccine pills, saying these are going to take away your COVID vaccine for $75 a bottle online. They were actually zinc and pineapple extract. I need to know if any of you bought them. Then he goes on to write children's books about King Donald Trump. I think he wrote 4 to 6 of them. And there was a wizard, that was Kash Patel, and he saved Trump. Like, you can't make this shit up, guys. This is our director of the FBI. He also starts a nonprofit, and it raises $1.3 million, and it is going...
All right, I had to pause that because I need you to do the eyes. When I saw his picture, that's all I thought about was you and his fucking eyes. There he is.
Yeah.
What you said he had? What kind of disease?
Was that thyroid or something?
Thyroid.
Make the bulging eye disease. They're trying to like, yeah, I don't want to be in a staring competition with him. He'd win every time.
Yeah. All right, let's finish this up.
The FBI. He also starts a nonprofit, and it raises $1.3 million, and it is going to law services to help anyone that speaks and defends MAGA, January 6th, veterans, everybody. But 10% of those funds went to the actual people they were supposed to help. The rest of those funds went to merchandise, fundraising, and then $275,000 to $280,000 went to his friend who owns an LLC as a vendor. He didn't report that in his first 990. He had to go back and report it and correct it. He then has a consulting firm. All right, he starts Trishul. I think that's how you say it. His clients are the Chinese parent company to Shein, in which he has $5 million of stock, yet he refuses to give that up. He refuses to get rid of the $5 million of stock. So our FBI director still has $5 million of stock in a Chinese company, yet we had to get rid of TikTok because they were spying on us. At this point, I would rather China have my data than my own government. He also did work for the Qatar government. We're going to come back to that one. This one's big. He did work for a Czech arms dealer that has ties to Russia and a filmmaker that has ties to the Kremlin. So our FBI director's foreign influence ties are not only really, really shady, but they still exist. Because although he said he would give up his Qatar government relationship, within 5 weeks of getting confirmed, he signed an ethics waiver that said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm good. I'm trustworthy. I can maintain this relationship. And then by December, he was in Doha signing security agreements for the Qatar government that has ties and meets with Mossad and Hamas all the time. Congress needs to do a better job at due diligence on these people. Call me, because this is ridiculous. We as Americans deserve better. In addition, he got up at the congressional oversight hearing yesterday, the 18th of March, and said that they buy data and locations of Americans. They spy on Americans. They don't have to have a warrant. That vote is April 20th. Right now, they don't have to have a warrant to do it. And he uses that data, and it's not for political purposes or to catch bad guys or anyone in the e-files. No. It's to go after journalists and protesters like you, me, people that speak out against what's currently happening, that bring light to what's currently going on. Joe Kent, he's now threatening to go after him. Get the fuck out of here. You are so unqualified for this position. Congress needs to look into Kash Patel. They need to look into Pam Bondi and their foreign ties and influence. So much more to come, including his girlfriend. Get ready for that one. His follow the money, all of that. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Candace had mentioned a little while back about Kash Patel and might be a little shady.
Oh, Cash.
It's kind of hard to think that for me because I had a lot of high hopes for Cash. I really did.
Mm-hmm.
I had a high hope for a lot of these people in office. We don't know any of those people. Honestly, we don't. And
No.
what's sad is we will fight with our neighbors over these people. And these people don't give a fuck about you.
Mm-mm.
Wake the fuck up. I mean, these people don't give a flying fuck about you.
Right. Yeah, they're slowly dwindling down the toilet bowl.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are waking up, and then they want to make you feel bad for seeing this shit. It's like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I know I'm an asshole, but man, you wrong for noticing it. What?
Yeah. How dare you notice my crap I'm doing?
Yeah, it's like the husband that's cheating. He gets caught, then he gets mad at the wife for noticing that he's cheating.
Yeah.
Why you was going through my phone? No,
Yeah.
motherfucker, I seen you dicking down 3 other women. You wouldn't
That's
see it
heavy.
if you-
It's heavy narcissism, dude. That's how a narcissist is. They don't take responsibility for anything. They're always the victim.
like Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me. Okay.
It wasn't
You're
me.
right. You're right. I effed her, but I make love to you.
Yeah, I make love to you. All right, man. One last thing I'd like to leave you all with. We often talk about surveillance, and we even talked about Palantir earlier and all this shit they're using with AI. And we talk about how we're being tracked all the fucking time. But have you ever wondered why they always want to give you really no other option but to save all your shit to a cloud storage? Think about it. Everything that you have, they want you to save it to a cloud storage. Have you ever thought why?
So they can have access to it.
Yeah, but have you thought about that before?
Yeah, I mean, shit. Anything you upload to the internet, like my OneDrive thing keeps popping up on my computer. I'm like, stop. You know what I'm saying?
OneDrive for work? Yeah.
No, my computer I'm on right now. Because you can't auto save and all this other crap, man. I'm tired of it, dude. I'll save the damn shit when I'm ready to save it.
That's for your convenience.
Yes. No, it's not. And so they get it like as soon as you're like, so you can't back out and be like, nah, I'm not going to say no. It's already saved and it's already on the OneDrive. And guess where the OneDrive is?
Yeah. See, for my work stuff, I have on a OneDrive, and everything that's mine is on a hard drive. Everything that's
Right.
mine is on a hard drive. I don't even save any of my pictures to a cloud. None of that
Right.
stuff goes to a cloud ever. I just never wanted it on a cloud. Not because of this. My cameras from my house are not on the internet. It will never be connected to the internet. I don't need it for that. You know, I
Right.
need it for looking at should something happen. I don't want to monitor it when I ain't here. Like I told somebody before, if somebody's breaking into my house and I'm on vacation, I don't want to know. There's
That's
nothing I
right.
can do about it but get mad.
Right.
Fuck. So yeah, I don't want to know. But I seen this video and I never thought of it that way because I didn't use it. I just didn't. So I never thought of it in that aspect. But this guy, I seen this video and it made me think of it. So let's check this guy out.
When they locked this internet up, ain't nobody streaming nothing. Streaming was created for real-time editing. The reason we're all into streaming, the reason why they took the hard drive out of the Apple TV, the reason why they don't want you with content is because they want to be able to alter content. See, if you're streaming, it's on their server, not yours. You don't own it. You don't even have it. That's why they sell a computer now, the fastest computer out right now, and the hard drive is tiny. Why you only give me 128 gigabytes? And if you want more, you got to pay thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
Why are they doing that? Because they want it in the cloud. Because two things happens if it's in the cloud. One,
they have it.
And the other thing is they learn it. Metatron don't know. He's not omniscient. He's not like God or whatever. This demon spirit has to learn.
They need our voices, our images,
Dude, it's us. We're all cyborgs. There's a digital version of all of us in the hands of the enemy. He's created it from our uploads. He's showing all your birthdays. He's showing everything you do. He's learning. How else would the devil be omnipresent?
Oh my.
He wants to be like God. The internet makes him omnipresent.
The internet.
Internet connects him to everybody.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. Man, I wish if we'd have done this before this weekend, because I was telling these kids during my talk that I had to give called The Secular World, like don't like get deep in the world and all that. It's where all your evil is. And I told them that the devil isn't omnipresent. God is, the devil isn't. And, you know, I love that preacher that made fun of that woman saying, Miss Mary, stop blaming the devil for trying to get you to pull into McDonald's and get that 20-piece nugget and 2 cheeseburger meal. That ain't the devil. That's you. Take responsibility for your own decisions, right? Don't sit there and say, hey, can you pray for me? The devil really tried to get me off my diet. No, he's not. You're trying to get yourself off your diet. Your weak mind is. But no, you're right. The social media is and the internet's what's allowing evil to be present all the time. So that's a good one. I like that.
Earlier today, I also read when he was talking about how you stream stuff, you know, and you're not saving anything.
Right.
And they were talking about how the newspapers today, everything's digital. And it said the reason why everything's digital is because you can change that.
Yeah.
If you had a paper that was printed and you had it at your house, you can't change what happened.
No. When you call and say, hey, why'd you say that? Well, we didn't. Yeah, I got it right here, idiot.
Yeah. Yep. But if it's on, look at my website. That's
how you go back to it like, well, I could have sworn it said this. Well, I think you read it wrong. Like,
but I saved it this day. Well, no, I think what you got's wrong.
Yeah. Even if you're saving stuff, because we offer DVR to the cloud for our business, you know, if you just stream, you can still record, but it goes to the cloud. They can alter that recording.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying on. And then here's the other thing with how Palantir and everything's taking all your information. Like he was saying, they can take all that information and create a digital version of you or your cyborg.
Yeah.
And all they doing is just picking what little pieces they need. And the more you give them, and some people give them everything, even everything they eat, you know, everything. They give them everything.
Tell them to guard it like a virgin on prom night. They giving it up like a hoe at a party, man. Come on.
I was reading an article the other day. They were talking about how people just will post anything and how it's coming back to haunt them because they get mad at their girlfriend, they get mad at their boyfriend, and they'll just post on, you know, how shitty it was, not thinking that maybe tomorrow they might make up.
Right.
but now they blasted them online, and
it's
it
out
creates
there
all these
forever.
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people just can't understand that you don't put your personal shit out there. Like, when did that become normal?
Yeah, shut your mouth.
I don't know. All right. Well, I know it was a heavy one, and honestly, the next few of them, going to probably be a little heavy because I want to keep pulling the thread on this evil shit, and that we have in the world. I'm interested, and
Right.
I think I hope everyone's interested. It's a little bit, it's a lot. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. There's a lot of information, so
Right.
I'm trying to read through it and just make it simple because I don't understand it in totality. But I understand enough of it to know that this shit ain't going nowhere. This is the same shit from way back then that we're seeing today. There ain't no doubt in my mind on that.
Right.
And I have a lot more stuff I'm looking into. So we'll look at that in the next weeks ahead. So thanks everyone for taking the time to watch or listen. We really appreciate you. We appreciate everyone that spends their time with us. We know you could be doing something else, but you spend your time with us, and we greatly appreciate that.
Yep.
Like, share, follow, and subscribe. This is the Sense and Senseless podcast. I am Brian.
And I'm Jason.
He's Jason. Peace.
Peace.